What's going on, guys? My name is Zach Thomas, and this is my video essay. And for today's video essay, I will be discussing method acting. The definition of method acting is a range of training and rehearsal techniques that seek to encourage sincere and emotional expressive performances, as formulated by many actors. Now, let me first start off by saying that I'm not here to bash the actual performances themselves. I mean, the transformation these actors have made, like Christian Bale in The Machinist, Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight as the Joker, Jared Leto's insane 60-pound transformation for his role in Chapter 27, and also just how far he took his role on the set of The Suicide Squad, where he had sent other cast members dead animals, used condoms in the mail and everything. Too bad the performance didn't actually follow through with the preparation that Leto put into the role. And me personally, I thought Tommy Wiseau would probably have been a better choice for the Joker. But
you are tearing me apart, Lisa!
That's a completely different video essay in and of itself. The reason why I want to talk about method acting today is because of the new Netflix original documentary, Jim and Andy. Now, this documentary is based on the behind the scenes and the making of Man on the Moon, starring Jim Carrey. It's the Andy Kaufman story. For those of you who may not know a lot about Andy Kaufman or the backstory and the history behind Andy Kaufman, Andy Kaufman was basically the biggest internet troll ever before the internet was even existed. He was constantly in character 24/7, 365, even when the cameras weren't rolling. Jim Carrey was a huge fan of Andy Kaufman's growing up, and that's why he really embraced becoming Andy Kaufman.
What happened after was out of my control.
Andy, that's enough, perfect.
I don't like it. I want to do one more.
Andy felt it was necessary to stay in the character.
He's exactly the way Andy was.
It's totally surreal.
And this crazy melodrama started happening all over the place.
Jimmy said they came down hard.
Who's they? Andy, you have to give me a chance to make a movie.
I don't need to make a movie.
I was thinking, how far should I take this?
I see. Sound check. Sound check. It's working.
How far would Andy take it?
You're going to have people that are going to sue this production for mental stress.
But this behind the scenes look really opened my eyes into why I totally disagree with method acting. For starters, Hollywood is a business, and it is how a lot of people make a lot of money, and they provide for their families. In the Jim and Andy documentary, Jim Carrey reveals that during an altercation with actor and pro wrestler Jerry Lawler on set, Jim Carrey did exactly what Andy Kaufman did back in the day. He faked an injury for publicity. Jim was sent to the hospital and underwent treatment for several days. Actor Jerry Lawler was fired from the set. The whole production was delayed as several members who were working on the project were scrambling to try and find a replacement for Jerry Lawler, and also scrambling to try and rebook locations that they had already committed to for certain dates, costing this production thousands of dollars. Needless to say, the entire crew was on edge, as they didn't know what the fate of their project and the fate of their paychecks would be going forward. But eventually Jim Carrey came to his senses and came back to work, and they brought back Jerry Lawler, and all was well in the world. But still, the power that Jim Carrey had over this entire production, he basically took it out of the filmmaker's hand. Jim Carrey had created the world, and everyone else had to step into it. Everyone else had to step into his world. It was no longer a professional set. It was no longer about the story of Andy Kaufman. It was about Jim Carrey becoming Andy Kaufman. And while I do love the movie, and I do think that Jim Carrey did a great job, that is another problem that I have with method acting. It takes the power away from the filmmaker. The focus of the audience is no longer on the story and the character's progression throughout that story, but rather the actor and the actor's performance. And I'm not saying the actor should not get recognition for the preparation and the work put into the role, but what I am saying is maybe we have overglorified this method of acting, because generally speaking, there is nothing but universal praise for actors who go to great lengths to dive into character. Oscar nominations and universal praise for what they did preparing for this role, when honestly we should be more concerned about them. Yeah, they're a bunch of millionaires, but there are so many physical and psychological effects felt by the actor after each role. Extreme fatigue, extreme fear, anxiety, shame, sleep deprivation, personality changes, personality disorders, psychotic disorders, and identity disorders are all associated with method acting. And while method acting may produce amazing performances, Jim and Andy shows that there are serious repercussions for undergoing this method. It completely changed Jim Carrey's entire outlook on life. It changed who he was 20 years later, and he is still feeling the effects of that. This was a really tough thing to watch, because Jim Carrey was an idol of mine growing up. I loved everything that he was involved in, every movie. And it was really hard for me to see one of my favorite actors of all time lose his mind. For the admiration of the audience, it really put things into perspective. Thank you guys for watching.